How does fear work? Now this word is actually disturbing today's generation. We have fear about future, we have fear about our past. So how does this fear works neuroscientifically, and what our ancient wisdom has to say about this? So neuroscience says that fear originates in amygdala. And amygdala is an almond-like structure which is present in your brain. So this is basically a fast automatic threat detection system. So this amygdala receives sensory inputs before any conscious thought, and that is why fear activates in your brain before any reasoning. Now what happens is that when this amygdala senses any threat, what it does is that it triggers three things. The first is the hypothalamus. In this, it releases cortisol level, which is basically the stress hormones. The second thing is that it disturbs our nervous system. So what happens is that your heart rate increases, your breath becomes shallow, and there is a lot of tension. The third thing which it does is that it eases your brainstem, and that is why you go in fight or flight signal zone. And this is called your survival biology, okay? Because your body is trying to survive the fear in front of you. And Vedic psychology describes this as manas, the reactive mind, because it instantly reacts to the sensory objects without even discriminating and without giving any conscious thought about it. Now Upanishad says that fear arises where there is duality, okay? But in modern times we say that, amygdala survives on the potential threat. So amygdala actually survives based on dividing experiences into self and potential threat. So basically what our amygdala does is that it gives this self a sense of separation, which is why it feels that there is some potential threat from someone else. So that is why this duality creates problem. So basically there are two pathways to fear. One is the direct and the other one is the indirect. So in the direct, what happens is that the sensory objects reaches straight to the amygdala, which is also called manas, which is also called the reactive brain, fast or unconscious brain. But the indirect method is that the sensory inputs reaches via cortex, which is the prefrontal cortex, and hippocampus. And in Vedic sciences, this is called buddhi. So when awareness is present, what happens is that the thinking brain, which is this prefrontal cortex, what it does is that it calms the fear brain, which was manas, and it actually regulates the lower brain. In neuroscience, this is called the top-down approach, in which the brain, which actually relates to observation, to awareness, to regulation, to reasoning, calms the other brain, which is known for survival, for fear, for anger, and for emotional reactions. So when this higher brain regulates the lower brain, this is called the top-down approach. So actually what happens is that fear does not stop. Fear would be stored here, but it actually loses control when you actually take a pause before reaction. Because now what you did was that now you are letting your fear move through the indirect method, where first it has to go through the prefrontal cortex and then it will reach amygdala. So automatically your higher brain will regulate your lower brain, and that is why we say that always take a pause before reaction. This is known as awareness. This is known as observation, where your prefrontal cortex is an authority. So over time when you meditate or you chant mantras or you do breath work exercises, what you're doing is that you are actually reducing amygdala and you are strengthening your prefrontal cortex, which is helping you create new neural pathways. And MRI studies actually shows that when you do these kind of things like meditation or breath work, what it does is that it has seen reduced amygdala and stronger prefrontal cortexes and reduced level of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. You would be shocked to hear that Vedic texts call this abhyāsa, which is the repeated practice which weakens your fear conditions and it rewires your brain. And this rewiring is also called neuroplasticity. So Vedic text actually says that when you over time do these kind of things, you are actually rewiring your brain. That is why everyone says that you are not your mind, you are not your limbic reactions. Whatever you see does not have to be true. You are above your sensory objects. And I think this concept actually made you believe and made you aware that yes, we are above our sensory objects and we should always pause before any reaction.